Welcome into Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That is Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We are coming to you from our homes on this wet Tuesday afternoon, and excited to be here with you dry for the next couple of hours, talking local, regional, and national sports, and a lot of it. Wade, you're dry, I take it.
We're dry for now, and yeah, it's pretty yucky outside, but we're glad to be indoors and good to be with everybody here on this Tuesday. A lot to tap into, and looking forward to a good show, honestly.
Should be a lot of fun, man. In the next segment, we are going to catch up with the grieving Heather Williams of WCYB-TV out of Johnson City as we get ready for Daytona. And I'm sure she's kind of licking her wounds from Sunday night, our resident Chiefs fan. So we'll be checking on her, and y'all send out some good vibes to Heather, because I'm sure that was a tough night for Heather Sunday night, as it was for a lot of Chiefs fans. At the top of the 3 o'clock hour, we will be joined, as we typically are on Tuesdays, by the Blue Raider voice, soon to be one of the newest members of the TSSAA Hall of Fame, Chip Walters. Looking forward to chatting with him about the past week and what's coming up on campus, and again, his upcoming induction on campus. It's an April event. We'll talk more about that when we get him on at the top of the 3 o'clock hour. But yeah, big news for Chip. Excited for him, man. Much deserved. We will also be talking a little college basketball action, because it's a big night on the Southeastern Conference slate tonight. Big top 15 matchup up in Lexington, the number 1 team in the country coming to town tonight. Little pro basketball to talk about as well. And
Purdue, Michigan. I know that was on the tip of your tongue, but that's the match.
Hey, I saw a clip from that game last night. Who is the big 7-footer who's knocking down threes for Michigan?
Probably Wolf, Danny Wolf, or you got Vlad Golden.
Yeah, it was Wolf.
They got Purdue at the crib tonight. That's gonna be a huge game.
Wolf, I guess it was a game over the weekend. They showed him out on the left wing taking a little step back three with a jab step and back and nothing but net. Man, 7-footers are playing like point guards nowadays, and I guess Wolf is one of those. That's
Joe Sullivan's guy. He was touting him last year at Yale, and he's fit right in under first-year head coach Dusty May. He's been playing well, but yeah, that is a huge showdown for the boys in blue tonight.
That is. Yeah, we need to. I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's not. We don't just need to focus on SEC. That's where you come in, Wade. But Brad Willis has been at it again. Still, we will tell you his latest gotcha victim here later in the show. Got some Major League Baseball news as spring training looms for most of those teams here in the next couple of days, and an update on Tiger Woods. So we will talk about all of that. We will close the show with Top 5 Tuesday, presented by MidSouth 5 Fitness. Wade and I will give you our best / most memorable Super Bowls. I don't think Sundays will be on the list, but we'll talk about that. So should be a lot of fun as we stay dry before we go out for Tuesday night basketball tonight. So stay dry as long as we can. Y'all stay dry as long as you can before you have to get out. Stick around and hang out with us here in the dry. Wade, what do you say we get this thing started with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown?
This is the rundown.
Tuesday rundown is here, boys and girls. Let's dive into it. Girls basketball scores from last night. High school action saw Columbia Academy defeat BGA 68-59. Creekwood on top of Harpeth 69-43. East Hickman all over Santa Fe 59-12. Franklin Road Academy with a 69-49 win versus Middle Tennessee Christian. Mount Juliet besting Oakland 73-60. It was Providence Christian 69, Grace Christian Franklin 23. Smith County all over Watertown 50-36. Trousdale County, the same versus St. Cecilia Academy, 53-27. And the Webb School knocks off University School of Nashville last night, 58-26 was your final.
In boys basketball action from Monday, Creekwood with a 49-46 win over Harpeth. It was Santa Fe behind 33 Alden Slaughter points, knocking off host East Hickman 82-54. Loretto with an 89-31 win over Collinwood. It was Oakland 58, Mount Juliet 54, and Smith County defeats Watertown 51-32. College basketball action from Monday, Georgetown and Cumberland split a doubleheader. The Georgetown women knocking off the Lady Phoenix 78-52 before Cumberland comes through with a 92-89 victory in the nightcap there. Big win for the Phoenix.
Good win for Cumberland there in a high-scoring game, it sounded like. Let's go to tonight's schedule, folks. High school basketball doubleheaders. These all begin at 6 o'clock unless stated otherwise. Hillsboro on the road tonight, traveling to Antioch. Innsworth is doing the same on the road at Brentwood Academy. Father Ryan visiting CPA this evening. Clarksville Northeast will welcome Clarksville to town. Short trip, at least, for those two teams. Hickman County is on the road tonight at Columbia. Smyrna is on the road tonight at Cookeville. Culleoka will play host to Richland. Mark Mize and Adam Hansen will have your broadcast tonight on Pulaski Citizen Live. Kenwood will be at Dixon County this evening at 6 p.m. Pleasant View Christian will be at FC Boyd Senior Christian. Yours truly on the broadcast tonight as Murfreesboro Central Magnet comes to Giles County this evening for a District 8 AAA showdown. Valor Collegiate on the road tonight at Glencliff. Friendship Christian will be at Good Pasture. Gallatin traveling to Green Hill. Santa Fe will be at Hampshire tonight in a 10A affair. Clarksville Northwest at Henry County. Houston County is on the road at Hollow Rock Brewston. Brentwood is traveling to Independence. Hunters Lane visits John Overton, and Pearl Cone will be at Lead Academy.
Also, Wilson Central is at Laverne at 6. Martin Luther King travels to Lawson. Lebanon hosting Stewart's Creek. Sycamore is at Liberty Creek. Hume Fogg goes to Maplewood. Lawrence County travels to Marshall County. McGavock is hosting Cane Ridge. Montgomery Central takes on visiting Joe Burns. Lewis County comes to Mount Pleasant. Summit is at Nolensville. Riverdale goes crosstown to Oakland. Franklin is at Page in a Big Ten 4A matchup. Centennial goes to Ravenwood. Red Boiling Springs is hosting Westmoreland. Blackman goes to Rockvale. Springfield is at Ross View. Siegel hosting Warren County. Chevrolet travels to Spring Hill. Lipscomb Academy, that's girls only, I would imagine. Lipscomb Academy is going to St. Cecilia, which only has girls. Greenbrier is at Station Camp at 6. Creekwood is at Stewart County. Wayne County hosting Summertown. That should be a good one, particularly on the girls' side. Portland goes to White House, and Cheatham County is at White House Heritage. In girls' basketball action only, 5:30 start as Pope John Paul II goes to Harpeth Hall. And again, that Lipscomb Academy St. Cecilia girls game starts at 6. In boys only action, Pope John Paul II is at Montgomery Bell Academy. Men's basketball action tonight, as we mentioned, Southeastern Conference, couple of matchups. Tennessee goes to Kentucky. That's a 6 o'clock tip. You can see it on ESPN. On the SEC network at 6, you've got number 1 Auburn at Memorial Gym taking on the Vanderbilt Commodores. And in the association, 9 o'clock, the Memphis Grizzlies go out to the Valley of the Sun taking on the Phoenix Suns. That game can be seen both on TNT and on, what is that? Max, help me out, Wade.
Yeah, only Max. Don't you dare call it HBO Max. They get real finicky about that now.
Just Max.
We ain't trying to get the lawyers involved.
No, we don't need that. We don't have anybody on retainer that I'm aware of. So Memphis, Phoenix, 9 o'clock, TNT and Max. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your rundown. Your top story brought to you, as always, by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options, available from 11 a.m. until 6 p.m. Also, their hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And there may not be too many people happier than our guest from Friday, Jim Derry of the Datitude podcast down in New Orleans, with our top story, as Kellen Moore and the New Orleans Saints have reached an agreement for him to become their head coach. And, we don't know if Kellen just stayed in New Orleans after the Super Bowl or how that worked out, but he is the latest Saints head man, 36 years old. This guy was playing less than 10 years ago. So it's really kind of been a meteoric rise through the coaching ranks to the head coaching role here. 3 seasons of the backup quarterback with the Lions, was with the Cowboys in 2015 behind Tony Romo and Dak Prescott. Finally gave up the clipboard in 2018 and takes over as quarterbacks coach of the Cowboys, and went from there to OC a year later, then left to join the Packers and to the Eagles. So it's been a heck of a ride. I'm sorry, there was a Chargers stop in there in between, but again, meteoric rise, and now he is the head coach at New Orleans. And as we've talked on numerous occasions, going to be an interesting situation just from a personnel standpoint there for him.
Yeah, a lot to kind of digest, but really the main thing, if you're a Saints fan, is you can finally breathe a sigh of relief. The worst scenario would have been is if you waited all this time through the Super Bowl and then for some reason it didn't end up being Kellen Moore, you'd really kind of have a little bit of a problem on your hands. But it seems like when all is said and done, you get your guy, which is better late than never. And you're obviously talking about a guy that just fresh off a dominant Super Bowl victory. So it feels like if you're a Saints fan, you probably could have done worse, all things considered.
Oh, without question. I mean, obviously the wait was a little hellish, but better late than never, as you said. Philadelphia was the 7th best scoring offense in the league this past year, 8th in total offense. Of course, I don't know that Jalen Hurts or Saquon Barkley are walking through that door at the Superdome, but at the same time, this guy has shown that he kind of knows how to put an offense together. And, again, as we talked to Jim Derry, Derek Carr is still on the roster in New Orleans, 4-time Pro Bowler. But it feels like they really want to go in a different direction at quarterback. Now, what that direction becomes, who the heck knows? But it feels like Carr has kind of worn out his welcome down there, despite, again, 4-time Pro Bowler. So that'll be, I would imagine that'd be the first thing that Kellen Moore has to sort out, right?
Yeah, it's got to be priority number one. And it's going to be interesting. How about this for a fun fact, Mo? You go back to 2011, there was a football game played, Boise State versus Fresno State. You know who the two quarterbacks in those games were, or that game was? Kellen Moore was the quarterback for Boise State, and Derek Carr was the quarterback for Fresno State. So, a little bit of old history between these two guys, and some uncertainty about that position for New Orleans. I think if Carr is under a different contract, everybody's kind of okay. But because he kind of commands a whopping contract, he kind of hasn't played. And, we talked last Friday. His stats are not necessarily horrific. He's certainly struggled. He was one of the worst red zone quarterbacks in the NFL the last couple of seasons. But if it wasn't on that type of contract, I think folks would feel a little better about it. But yeah, that's certainly probably got to be priority number one. And the number two is just trying to clear some space and just kind of get through the wreckage a little bit if you're Kellen Moore here.
In Moore's 6 seasons as an offensive coordinator with the Cowboys, Chargers, and Eagles, his teams have ranked in the top 7 in scoring offense on 4 occasions. So that's kind of what New Orleans is looking for as they bring him in, is to try to juice things up on that side of the ball, and hopefully the defense can catch up. So I guess that's a better option for them. As we said, former Saint Aaron Glenn was in contact with them and was thought to be the direction that they were going to go in. Glenn eventually wound up with the Jets. The Saints wound up waiting another couple of weeks for Philadelphia to get done with their postseason run, and this is their guy. So it's a new day in New Orleans. And the good thing is, I guess, regardless of how the quarterback situation shakes out, it is the NFC South, and nobody necessarily is heads and shoulders above everybody else in that division.
Yeah, uncertainty is abound every single year, seemingly. Tampa, you figure, is probably your most solid, but we see it every year. It feels like somebody kind of comes out of the woodwork and surprises in that division. And it's going to be fascinating. The other kind of cool thing that I found out about this hire was our guy, Lante Taylor, former Coffee County and then UT standout. He got on Instagram Live earlier and said, Kellen Moore, please get the best defensive coordinator you can find. He said, quote, whoever you hire as defensive coordinator, he got to come crazy. We're trying to play all of that. We ain't trying to play none of that soft stuff. So the energy is kind of there. And anytime you get a little extra juice by hiring a Super Bowl winning coordinator, like I said, they could have done worse, all things considered, it feels like, with this hire.
Oh, for certain, they could have done worse. And as you look across the landscape of the hires that took place during this cycle, I'm sure there's someone that did do worse. So we'll see how that turns out. But Kellen Moore fills the final seat in the musical chairs of the NFL coaching carousel, taking over the Saints gig. I'm sure we'll be talking more about that in the coming days. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return, we will be talking a little NASCAR with Heather Williams of WCYB-TV out of Johnson City. Stick around. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
Top 5 Tuesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. And joining us via the phone or via audio only is Heather Williams of WCYB-TV out of Johnson City. Heather is going from point A to point B. Which of those points? Where are you headed, Heather?
I'm headed to Daytona. I'm currently in Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh, so you're close. You've been rolling. Okay.
Close. Yeah, I've been rolling. I left about 6 o'clock this morning.
Ugh. Okay. You're going to log as many miles as the drivers by the time this is all over with, huh?
Yeah, pretty close, but I mean, if we could talk about the weather, the difference in the weather here as opposed to when I left Bristol this morning, it's worth it on that alone.
There you go. As we sit here and look out at wet and cold. So yeah, I'm happy for you. This kind of helps. This takes a little of the sting out of Sunday night, huh?
Yeah, we're not. I mean, we can talk about Sunday night. I'm actually fine with it. If the floor for the Chiefs is never losing any earlier in the playoffs in the AFC Championship and occasionally getting blown out in the Super Bowl, other people can talk all they want. 31 at least other franchises would take that, or 30 other franchises would take that. The Eagles may not today, but I think everybody else would take that.
I think you're absolutely right, and that's a great perspective there. Heather, what are you expecting this week?
I'm expected to learn a lot. There's so many changes to drivers, to teams, to drivers in different places, crew chiefs in different places, new organizations, reorganized organizations, expanded organizations that put way more money into the sport. So nobody really knows what all this is going to mean, right? So we're going to learn a lot. Now, Daytona is still its own animal. So people don't always learn like which teams are going to be the contenders maybe necessarily at Daytona, but I think you'll get a good idea of who really has come to play this year through the course of qualifying and the duels in the Daytona 500 because there's so much change this year.
Heather, as we kind of descend upon Daytona, obviously you literally descending upon it. What are some Daytona-specific storylines, whether that's track-related or whether that's crew-related? What are one or two key storylines that we need to know about heading into this weekend?
I would say, to me, the most compelling storyline is probably going to be the drivers trying to get in the Daytona from the open cars. There are some big-name teams that are going, or drivers rather, that are going as open drivers because they're not full-time Cup Series drivers anymore, trying to qualify for Daytona 500. This is the largest field trying to get into the sport since 2015, trying to get into this race. And you have guys like Martin Truex Jr. and Jimmy Johnson that are not locked in to the show. They have to either be fast tomorrow night on qualifying or they have to race their way in the duel. You have teams that have historically performed pretty well in Daytona, despite not being the biggest teams that are also trying to race their way in, like Corey LaJoie with Rick Ware Racing and Anthony Alfredo with Beard Motorsports. Beard Motorsports is a team that is an open team. They only run the plate races or the super speedway races, and they always show up and they're always competitive and they seem to always race their way in. So, but there's a lot more competition. So do they have to take this year to get in? When you're racing against Jimmy Johnson and Martin Truex Jr., I think it's going to be really compelling at Daytona because of the amount of open teams trying to get into the race. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. The thing to keep an eye on is all the top line drivers with new crew chiefs, specifically Denny Hamlin, Bubba Wallace are two of the bigger name ones that have new crew chiefs. But there's a lot of changes because there was a lot of change. I mean, the whole organization, one of the top tier organizations, shut down at the end of last year, and all those top minds in the sport scattered to other organizations. So what is 2025 going to look like for those people and the teams that they took off to and joined. You know, Spire Motorsports got Rodney Childers as a crew chief. He was the hottest crew chief prospect last year. It was at Stuart Haas. They closed down. So how does that improve Spire? They really feel like they're going to take the next step and be, you know, maybe the next Trackhouse or 2311 Racing. So those are just some of the top lines, but there are so many stories.
Heather Williams of WCYB-TV out of Johnson City joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, as she is in Florida making her way toward Daytona. Big week, a lot going on, obviously, as we get the Cup Series going. You've got practice tomorrow, you've got media day tomorrow, and it just continues to be crazy from then up until Sunday's race. Between now and Sunday, Heather, well, you know, before I get to anything else, you were mentioning that you may not know everything about every team coming out of Sunday, and we've experienced this with our discussions of the Predators over the course of this season. When you have so much change in the off season, sometimes it takes a while for things to gel. Sometimes things don't gel. You know, how long typically does it take everybody to kind of get on the same page on a racing team when you've had some of the upheaval that some of these teams have had this offseason?
You know, fairly quickly, but the reason that it's hard to tell what people are coming out of Daytona is Daytona is such its own animal, right? And because we don't do the super speedway racing a ton, riding in the draft, more teams are competitive. It's less about horsepower, more about handling and making sure you're in that draft. So cars that are typically slow can be faster at Daytona. A BJ McLeod or a Rick Ware Racing type car could run in the top 5 if you're position yourself right and run the draft right. So it's a little bit of a different animal. Used to always say that it would be the West Coast swing before we really knew what teams were, because generally in the past you went from Daytona and then spent 3 straight weekends out on the West Coast at Phoenix, Vegas, and California. California is no more that speedway, so and we don't go there right away. Now we have another plate race or another super speedway race in Atlanta week 2, and then a road course at COTA in week 3. So it might be 4 or 5 weeks into the season this year before we really know which teams are going to be the competitive teams, because we start with 3 kind of wild card races to start the year this year.
Heather, between now and Sunday, you know, what are the, obviously media day tomorrow, but what else are the bigger events for you as you get down there? Heather, can you hear me?
You were breaking up a little bit. I think I'm in a kind of a bad cell area, so if you could repeat that.
Yeah, I was just saying, you know, between now and Sunday, other than media day tomorrow, what are some of the bigger events for you, professionally speaking?
All right.
Mark, have we still got Heather? Because I don't even hear background now.
Yeah, I'm not sure. She disconnected.
Oh, okay. All right. We
hit that dead zone and never to be heard from.
Well, hopefully we'll hear from her here in a bit. Again, Daytona coming up this weekend, culminating with the race at 1:30 Sunday afternoon local time. You can see it on Fox. Saturday, working backwards, you've got the ARCA 200 at 11 a.m. on Saturday. You've got qualifying for the Xfinity race prior to the ARCA race, and the Xfinity race, the United Rentals 300, is at 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon Central Time. You can see that one on the CW. Fridays, you've got qualifying for the Craftsman, among other things. That race, the Fresh from Florida 250, is at 6:30 Central Time. You can see that one on FS1. and you've got the duels, as Heather mentioned, on Thursday. So first one's at 6 o'clock Eastern. The second one is at at 6 o'clock Central. The second one's at 7:45 Central Time. So, you know, a lot of racing in a short period of time, obviously. And sounds like we have Heather back with us. Heather, what I was trying to ask you was, between Media Day tomorrow and the Cup Series race on Sunday, what are some of the other things that you're looking forward to this weekend?
Well, I mean, you kind of ran everything down that's going on, and every bit of it's going to be dramatic and interesting. I think the duels, as I kind of mentioned, as I kind of alluded to with the fact that there are so many open teams trying to get into this race, I think the duels are going to be really compelling as far as the drama playing out in that. And the thing that's really interesting for the duels is that there are so many people with different agendas, right? Because the only people that are safe in their starting position going into the duels are the two drivers that are the fastest in qualifying. They're on the front row. Everybody else's positions can change through the duel. So you're trying to, get a decent starting position so you can get a decent pit selection, but also you don't want to get too racy unless you have to, because you don't want to wreck your primary Daytona car and have to go to a backup in the duels. So I always find Thursday night to be the most compelling night of racing.
Heather, I wanted to ask
the 500.
I wanted to ask you one more, Heather, kind of about that open team situation. I'm reading, Helio Castroneves probably going to get in, or maybe going to get in via the traditional route with qualifying. But if he doesn't get in and wins or has to use a provisional, his team gets no prize money. Is that correct? And then my question is, what happens with the prize money if he does take home a big check? Where does that prize money go? Does that get redistributed?
Yeah, well, so basically he would get in from a new thing that's like basically a I don't know what you would call it, a superstar
world-class
driver, professional. Yeah. And that's an extra spot. That's an extra starting spot. So there is no prize money set aside for that spot per se.
Okay.
So really it would just be distributed among the 40 drivers that got in the traditional way.
So with that being said, how much of an impact do you anticipate from a guy? We're talking about a four-time IndyCar or four-time Indy 500 winner.
It'll be interesting to see. He's got a ton of experience in Daytona on the road course. He's run the Rolex and won it multiple times. He's also run an IROC car, which was an old series. People probably remember back in the day where top drivers from all different series would run on a handful of NASCAR tracks and in spec cars that were all identical. He ran in it. Dale Earnhardt ran in it. You had Ron Capps from NHRA ran in it a little bit, and they would all just kind of test their skills against each other across discipline. So, and he's logged laps in Daytona in an IROC car, so he's certainly familiar with the track. Now, these next gen cars and drafting at Daytona is a completely different animal. So I don't really know what to expect. I think he's obviously a talented driver and a quick learner, but history has shown that IndyCar drivers traditionally have a pretty tough time adapting to the Cup Series. There haven't been very many of them that have been successful making the transition from the IndyCar to the Cup Series. So we'll see. Could be an eventful weekend, or he could pick it up really quickly because Helio is exceptionally better than most of those drivers that have tried to make the transition before.
Heather, I know that we typically try to shy away from asking you about winners, but who do you think is going to run well this weekend in the Cup Series race?
Well, I mean, ask me at Daytona because it doesn't matter. It's a complete crapshoot anyway, right? Put all the cars in a bowl and shake them up and pull out a number is just about as good a way as predicting Daytona is actually using like skill or logic. The active drivers, Denny Hamlin has been the best, but he hasn't been that great since we switched over to the next gen car. The Toyotas in general have not been very good when we switched over to the next gen cars. The Fords have been exceptionally quick in qualifying in the next gen era, but haven't necessarily done that great. In fact, I don't think they've won
at all since we switched to the next gen at Daytona. So then I guess you start looking at the Chevys, right? Hendrick Motorsports won last year, a Hendrick affiliated team in what was then JTG Doherty, now Hayek Motorsports, won 2 years ago. So I would probably look in the Chevy camp for a winner. Who that may be. Alex Bowman's pretty good there. William Byron won last year. Chase Elliott's been pretty good there in the past. I'd probably go with one of those three drivers just without seeing a car on the track and not seeing what people have to offer at this point.
Yeah, you're kind of flying blind a little bit as we ask you that. I guess the one thing that we can count on is Chase Elliott not winning. I mean, given the lack of success for drivers coming out of the Clash.
I mean, yes, but in the past, it's just completely different now because the Clash is at such a different track, right? It's at Bowman Gray, which is nothing like Daytona, so it doesn't really have any bearing on that. But like I said, Hendrick Motorsports historically and especially in recent history has been very good at Daytona, so I think there's a good chance he could be up there at the front for sure.
There you go.
Hey, Heather, real quick, I just got a text from our favorite 6'7", 250-pound gas man, Justin White. He said he'll be on the lookout for you this week and hopes you have a safe week. If any fights break out, don't look to him, but we'll look for you to maybe get in the mix and break things up this week.
Oh, no, if any fights happen, I'm definitely hiding behind him.
He's a good shield. He's a good shield, but he's a gentle giant. So I think his fighting days may be done. He would like to maybe step away, but he did want to pass along some
I know, but he's
regards.
6'7". I could just hide behind him. He doesn't have to fight. I'm 5'3.5". He'd never find me.
You're inconspicuous. You're like a ninja, though. You can strike from a number of different angles. You got
I just have to like kick kneecaps and ankles. That's about it.
There, hey. Know your strengths, Heather. Know your strengths. Heather Williams of WCYB-TV out of Johnson City joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Talking a little NASCAR. Heather, be safe as you navigate and have a great time this week, and we look forward to catching up with you next week.
Thanks, guys. I just hit Jacksonville traffic, so there you go.
Godspeed.
Yeah,
good
thanks.
luck. Yeah, we'll talk to you. Get off the phone.
You, Heather.
All right. Hey, when we continue here on Main Street Sports today, let's get into a little hoops. Stay tuned after the break.
You wanna be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you wanna taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather beater.
Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. In the final segment of the show, Wade and I will be giving you our top 5 best / most memorable Super Bowls. So stick around for that. Again, I don't think Sunday's game is going to make our top 5. At least it's not going to make mine. I can't speak for Wade, but I feel fairly confident it's not going to make his either.
Unlikely.
Yeah. Let's talk a little hoops. Again, big night in the Southeastern Conference, headed by a top 15 showdown win. Number 5 Tennessee goes to number 15 Kentucky. Kentucky won this matchup in Knoxville a couple of weeks ago, but the Wildcats are kind of fighting for their lives a little bit. All of a sudden here, they've hit some struggles, and this is a big game at Rupp for them. Probably a bigger game for Kentucky than it is for Tennessee, particularly as you look through the standings. Tennessee, a half game out of second place at 7-4 behind Florida and Texas A&M, each at 7-3. Tennessee tied with Ole Miss at 7-4. But again, you got to look a little bit down the standings to come across Kentucky treading water at 5-5 in league play. And again, even though Kentucky won this game in Knoxville, this is a huge one for them. I think the only driving force for Tennessee is that you don't want to get swept by Kentucky.
Yeah, Tennessee feels like they've kind of found a little bit of their mojo that they had from earlier in the season, but they kind of have shown you just enough that you can't trust them just all the way. And Kentucky's obviously had their number literally recently, but some weird things always happen in that building, and Tennessee will have to be on their P's and Q's. But you're right, Kentucky feels like they have to be more on high alert. They need this win more than Tennessee needs this win. A win for Tennessee would be certainly nice, but it feels like a win for Kentucky seems critical tonight.
Kentucky has lost 2 of their last 3 before defeating South Carolina on Saturday. So, and it's been a little bit of that win over Tennessee and that win over South Carolina are their only 2 out of their last 6, which also includes a loss at Vanderbilt. So Kentucky on a bit of a inconsistent spiral there. And again, really feels like they need this one a lot more than Tennessee does. But I think Tennessee's pride will really be a driving force in this one, because if you're UT, you don't want to lose twice to Kentucky, regardless of whether it's Mark Pope, John Calipari, or Joe B. Hall. I mean, you just don't want to lose to those guys twice in the same year. So should be a big one. Again, 6 o'clock tip on ESPN for that one.
Kentucky, real quick, Lamont Butler is listed as probable for tonight's game, but Jackson Robinson is listed as out. So kind of the same situation. The lineup continues to kind of be in flux for the Wildcats. It didn't hurt them last time, but man, if you're Kentucky, you're like, it'd be nice to play a team at full strength for a change. But we'll see what Butler can do, because again, he's listed as probable for this evening.
Also at 6 o'clock tonight on the SEC network, and it's pretty wild that the number 1 team in the country gets relegated to the SEC network relative to ESPN, but that's where Auburn and Vanderbilt will play. And number 1 or not, if you are Auburn coming into Memorial, you speaking of P's and Q's, you really got to be on them, because Vanderbilt has already picked off a couple of folks at home. Looking at you, Tennessee and Kentucky. So, and it might be a little bit of a stretch, but we kind of thought those would be as well. And coming off a good game, good win this weekend against Texas as well, the Commodores are. So, Mark Byington has got them playing well and playing with some confidence. And I don't imagine they're going to back away from Auburn, but there are some built-in shortcomings, shall we say, for the Commodores in this one.
Yeah, and Vegas has given Auburn a pretty lengthy cushion. They're about a 9.5-point favorite in tonight's game. So Auburn, you're right. We gave you a little bit of a pass with the loss last weekend to Florida, but the same rules apply to Auburn that have applied to everybody. You cannot afford to let one loss turn into multiple losses, or else you'll find yourself going from one day dreaming about maybe potentially running the table to not only losing 2 in a row, but then you got that massive showdown versus Bama looming coming up this weekend. So they really need to take care of business tonight.
Yeah. And, this might be a good place for Vanderbilt to be ahead of that Alabama game as well. Maybe you catch Auburn looking ahead a little bit, a little less than focused, maybe. So, again, may not be a bad place for Vanderbilt to be. Florida goes to Mississippi State in another top 25 matchup. The Gators number 3, Mississippi State 22nd. Number 2, Alabama is at Texas tonight, and Georgia is at number 8, Texas A&M. Georgia, to be an unranked team, Georgia has been dangerous at times. They've had a tough time closing things out, 4-7 in league play, but they've given some folks some problems. So I don't know what Texas, again, coming off that loss to Vanderbilt on Saturday, is going to look like. But this could sneaky be a good game, it feels like.
Yeah, Georgia's proven that they can, hang around if you let them. Really, any team outside of maybe LSU is kind of in that same vein this year. So Texas A&M going to have to kind of be mindful of that tonight. Alabama's got to go to Texas, like you said, who's, suddenly surging, even though they did take one on the chin at Vanderbilt. But going real quickly back to that Vanderbilt team, this is a massive game tonight. They're all massive coming up. But if you can somehow get this win, you have a murderer's row with Auburn, Tennessee, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and Missouri. So all 6 of your next opponents are ranked. You have to take care of business if at all possible, because, yeah, you can maybe lose to Auburn, but like I said, the road doesn't necessarily get any easier. Then, boom, you got to turn right around to Kentucky. Then, boom, you got to turn right around at Tennessee rather than Kentucky. So you really have to be careful, because if you somehow take a little bit of a slide, the schedule is not very kind, and you definitely want to start piecing together as many wins as you can down the stretch.
Yeah. Couple worth keeping an eye on tonight. One worth keeping an eye on last night. The Lakers roll Luka Doncic out and pick up a victory against Utah, which, yeah, I don't know, Wade, how much of a shock is it that the Lakers beat the Jazz?
Not a shock. Everybody was kind of, I got a couple a couple Lakers friends that were kind of chirping at me last night. And I was like, all right, let's settle down. You're beating the Jazz. And, you got
the 12 and 40 Jazz, by the way.
Right. Who were involved in the trade to get you Luka. So, maybe they were rolling over in one final act of kindness there. But can't put a lot of stock into it, but it was cool. Feel bad for Baylor and Houston, though, right? I mean, their game gets bumped not even midway through the second half, and ESPN's like, hey, we'll see y'all later. We got Luka's debut. But it was cool. They had the Serbian warm-up music going. They introduced him last in the starting lineups, kind of like LeBron did with D. Wade when he was down in Miami, kind of playing the ultimate team player role. But, yeah, you should roll over the Jazz. They play the Jazz again in tomorrow night or 2 nights' time in Utah. So nice little easy way. Luka didn't necessarily have the best night shooting from downtown, but it didn't really matter. All the Lakers starters were in double figures. Unfortunately, that's really all the Lakers have these days is their starting 5. So they kind of took care of business the way they were supposed to. Can't put a ton of stock into it.
By the way, if you were not able to see or hear about the tail end of that Baylor-Houston game, Houston won at 76-65. So,
yeah, they just got bumped. They said, "You're on ESPNU. Get out of here."
That's kind of sad, but it kind of tells you where you are, I guess. All it took for the Warriors to get right was adding Jimmy Butler, right? They are 2-0 since he got there after last night's 125-111 win over Milwaukee.
Seems like it, right? You know, it was kind of neat in a sense. They were running some high-low stuff. One of the few highlights I saw from last night, they're running Draymond's throwing lobs to Jimmy. So, you know, everything's going okay right now. But that's kind of what we anticipated. You know, we're still in the honeymoon phase.
Right.
We haven't had time for Draymond really to get under Jimmy's skin and vice versa just yet. So, nice little win. The Bucks kind of in a weird spot right now, and at the end of the day, Golden State, they can't afford to take any team lightly. But that was a good win, especially on the road.
Do you have a date for when Draymond and Jimmy Bucket square off?
You know, I don't know that it may not come until the postseason when things, you know, when they really get backed into a corner, whether it's the play-in game or whether it's, you know, they do actually make the bona fide playoffs. But there will be a moment where tempers, it feels like, flare. And like I said, they're either going to be fighting each other or they're going to gang up 2-on-1 with a couple of sucker punches on whoever they're playing in the playoffs. So it feels inevitable. But right now, things are okay.
Kind of an oil and water kind of thing, huh?
Yeah, and then you have Curry, you know, kind of as the ultimate peacemaker if you need to. But it feels like it's going to be inevitable with those guys. Just stay tuned.
Did you see Curry sneak into the Bucks prayer circle after the game last night?
He did not.
Yeah. He walked up on them and joined in their post-game prayer. And, you know, Curry is one of the few folks that can probably get away with that just because, like you said, everybody loves him. So it's cool. But not too many other folks could probably crash a team's post-game circle like that. But, yes, I saw a clip of that last night. That was interesting, to say the least.
That one, hey, real quick, and we talked about the Lakers game. I didn't even flip over to that one for a while because the other team in that trade, the Mavericks, we talked a little bit about AD being out. But man, they had a wild game. Watched almost all the fourth quarter and overtime last night. They fall at the end to the Kings as DeRozan goes nuclear for 42. But Kyrie was giving them the business. I mean, it was a great little Western Conference showdown. And you know, Dallas is kind of reeling a little bit. The fans were certainly not happy, and the fact
the fans certainly were not happy,
and the fact they lost at home made things worse. So stay tuned for Dallas as well.
Put some respect on Kyrie's name. He's an all-star.
Yeah, swap in one teammate for the other, right?
Yeah, taking AD's spot with that adductor strain that's going to have him down for a minute apparently. So yeah, Kyrie is an all-star. They took the L last night, like you said, to Sacramento. Apparently, Alex Rodriguez and partner Mark Lowry are in position to purchase the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Minnesota Lynx after arbitration ruled in their favor over Glenn Taylor. Looking at an article on The Athletic, Lauren Rodriguez today announced that the arbitration in the Minnesota Timberwolves and Lynx ownership dispute was decided in their favor. The decision endorsed Lohr's and Rodriguez's interpretation of the purchase agreement and confirmed the contractually agreed timeline for Lohr and Rodriguez to obtain NBA approval and complete their acquisition of the teams has not expired. So they were supposed to finish something up by X period, and there was a question about whether or not they did, I guess. And I don't it's odd to me that you have to debate whether someone can own a team or not. Taylor agreed to sell the teams, again, the T-Wolves and the Lynx, to Lohr and Rodriguez for $1.5 billion back in 2022. The plan was for them to gradually assume control of the team in 3 installations over 3 years. So far, Lohr and Rodriguez have made 2 payments and played integral roles in shaping the direction of the franchise. They were preparing to make their final payment in March when Taylor called off the deal, saying they did not complete their transaction on time. So it sounds like Glenn Taylor kind of reneged on the deal.
Yeah, a lot of legalese to be involved here, it seems like, and a lot of moving parts with the people that have a lot more money than I'll ever get my hands on. But good to see A-Rod, still been around. I mean, he's been there. He's been vocal. He's been active. So, if we get closer and closer toward that, it seems like that's what he wants. And if that's what he's maybe perhaps entitled to, hopefully that's what we're trending toward.
These two are joined in an ownership group by former New York City Mayor Mike Bloomberg, former Google CEO Eric Schmidt, and the group has started to come up with solutions to long-term issues, including the aging Target Center and the regional sports network that shows the T-Wolves. So, A-Rod, NBA team owner, how's that?
It's been fun seeing him on the sideline. They took a tough one last night, losing to Cleveland on the road, but a lot of teams have done that. But yeah, he's been active, and we've seen him courtside at all the games and in the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. But it's going to be interesting. And you hit the nail on the head. At the end of the day, there's always kind of a root deal here, and the root deal is they're looking to move into a nice privately secured arena coming up soon, where there's smoke, there's fire. And these new owners, first thing you want to try and do is get a new arena so you can really start making the bucks.
No doubt. There's a nice article, an interesting article, I guess, on The Athletic today, kind of taking a look at WNBA expansion. There are 9 confirmed cities that have put in bids for what would be the 16th WNBA team that would take the floor no later than 2028. Obviously, Nashville is among those. And of the 9, Nashville, Austin, and Kansas City are the only 3 teams that either are not in a WNBA market, in an NBA market, or have had a WNBA team previously. Again, Austin has put in a bid, and Kevin Durant is involved with that bid. Charlotte is trying to regain a team. They had the Sting for years where Dawn Staley played. Cleveland is trying to go Rockers 2.0, I guess. They had a team when the league debuted for 6 seasons. Denver is trying to nail down a team. Detroit, which had the Shock, which is now the Dallas Wings, they are trying to bring a team back. And Grant Hill, Chris Webber, and Jared Goff are involved in that bid. Houston, which had a fantastic franchise, the Houston Comets, that disbanded. They won the first 4 WNBA championships. They are trying to get a team back. Kansas City's bid is led by Patrick Mahomes. Let's see. Obviously, we've talked about the Nashville situation, and Philadelphia is trying to bring a team to town. So, again, they hope to have that 16th team in place by 2028. You've got Golden State coming online for the upcoming season. Toronto and Portland will both play in 2026, and then in either 27 or 28, the 16th team will join the fray. So it's going to be a pretty competitive experience, sounds like.
No doubt. Competitive, a lot of good markets. And, man, you just rattled off a whole list of names, a lot of potential nice ownership bids that have been submitted. And I got to give a quick shout out. Last Friday's episode of Lame Stream Sports with Braden Gall and Steve Cavendish, man, they had a terrific breakdown from really start to finish of how the bid kind of came together, how rock solid. That was the thing, is everybody was gushing about how rock solid the Tennessee Summit bid kind of is, because we're talking about these other teams, but it just, and granted, we're in the footprint of Nashville, but it doesn't feel like any other bid is getting this much national attention, this much national buzz with the nod to Pat Summit, and then with the ownership group comprising of the Haslams and Candace Parker, Peyton Manning, Faith, and Tim, obviously. It feels like Nashville has kind of really put together a rock-solid bid, and they did a great job of breaking it down last week, because this feels like the nice, perfect little soft spot for any sort of new professional franchise in Music City.
You know, it feels, we said it when we first discussed this about a week and a half ago, that it just feels like the thing with the Tennessee Summit, you know, invoking the memory and the legacy of the late UT women's coach Pat Summitt, and the ownership group, like you said, everything else that goes with it. I wonder how much they will be hampered by the fact that the NBA isn't already here. You know, I've seen some crazy tweets that the team should be in Memphis rather than Nashville, which is kind of ridiculous, but everybody always wants to heat up that Memphis-Nashville discussion, I guess. But
rivalry.
Yeah,
Hatred,
for lack of a better phrase.
You know, icy, whatever, a number of different ways we could put that.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'll be interested to see how this goes, obviously, but there are a lot of groups that have some weight behind them. It feels like Nashville, and again, maybe it's biased because this is where we are, but it feels like this is going to be a good, solid bid, a good, solid organization, like you said. So we'll be keeping an eye on that.
That's the thing real quick that they mentioned is you need two things. You need a billionaire with a B, and Nashville's got that with the Hassels. And then you also need a great facility, and they have that with Bridgestone, which is going to be renovated by the time this bid would come to fruition anyway. So you got the two big check marks. I don't know that these others have as much juice behind them as Nashville does, which has got to be exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, because we've got in the green room 2025 TSSAA Hall of Fame inductee Chip Walters to talk to us a little bit about Middle Tennessee State. Stay tuned after the break.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilai Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2 of Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today. Get started right now. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. In our final segment of the day, Wade and I will give you our top 5 best/most memorable Super Bowls. So be sure and stick around for that. But right now, and we'll get into the Super Bowl here in just a second with our next guest, the Blue Raider voice, upcoming TSSAA Hall of Fame inductee, Chip Walters. And we've not had a chance to talk to him on the air since that was announced, but Chip was holding out on us on this news when we visited with him last week. Chip, first off, good afternoon. Second, congratulations. Third, I'm a little miffed at you. You could have broken that on our show. We're always looking to break news, man.
Well, you know, the motto here is when news breaks, we fix it. So it was one of those things. I was asked by Heather Carter and Matt Gillespie to keep it under wraps until the release went out on Wednesday. So I was just trying to comply there. But again, good afternoon to both of you. And I will say this, and I think I told you this on the phone, that when I saw Matt Gillespie's phone call come in last Monday, that was totally not unusual. Matt and I'll talk once every couple of weeks anyway about whatever's going on. But when I answered the phone, Heather Carter started talking and over Matt's phone, and she said, "Hey, you know, part of my job is I call people who are going in the Hall of Fame." So my first reaction was, I thought she needed somebody's phone number that I might have had. And so it kind of went from there. And but very, very gracious for them to make that offer. And again, you know, I'm just blown away by that. And it's something that I'm very grateful for, but very humbled in accepting.
Yeah, you were thinking, who do you need me to speak on behalf of?
Yeah, exactly.
At the induction ceremony. That's awesome, though.
You know, it's one of those things where I'm grateful for it and honored, but I'm uncomfortable with it in the sense that most of the time I'm the one on the podium announcing these things and emceeing these events where people are going into a Hall of Fame. So I've got to get my mind right before April 7th.
Well, at least you got plenty of time to get your mind right.
There you go. Yeah.
Again, congratulations. Well deserved. All of the work that you continue to do with high schools across the state of Tennessee, your work with the Blue Cross Bowl and the basketball state tournament championships, and obviously Spring Fling HQ. I mean, you have kept your hand in on high school athletics as well as anybody that has another day job. So I mean, I think your efforts, as much as anything else, are to be recognized and respected. So again, congratulations.
Well, I appreciate it.
You know, we said we were going to talk a little Super Bowl with you, and you know, if you want to play on a Super Bowl championship team, maybe you need to play your college ball at Middle Tennessee State.
6 in a row now, 6 years in a row, Middle has had a member of the Super Bowl winning team. And, you know, that's a pretty cool deal. And for this year, for it to happen to, to Reed Blankenship is just terrific, because I mean there's not a better representative, there's not a better guy out there than Reed Blankenship. And you know, and I'll tell you, for a fleeting second, knowing that Reed wears number 33, when that pick six happened, I saw the number on the back. Reed wears 32, and I saw the back number, and for just a second I thought he had gotten it, but it was DeJean who had made the interception. But still, that defense showed out on Sunday against Kansas City. But you know, you look back over time, and some of the folks who have been part of that. Well, several with the Chiefs include Shervarius Ward, Darius Harris, Darius a couple of times, Mike Caldwell. He got his Super Bowl trophy with the Bucks. Chandler Brewer with the Rams. Harris was back in there. Richie James with the Chiefs, and Isaiah Gathings was with the Chiefs. That sounds like a broken record, but you and I go back to when Don Griffin got 4 of them, I think, with 3 or 4 of them with San Francisco, and so it's a pretty good group, but it's 15 different guys now who have worn a Middle Tennessee uniform that have been on Super Bowl winning teams, and when you think about that's just players and coaches. There's probably some personnel people, equipment people, things like that we're not even thinking about. But 15 players and coaches that have been part of the biggest football event in the world.
And Reed, given his entry point into the National Football League, may be one of the more improbable ones. I mean, he's an undrafted free agent who had to make the team in training camp, and he has really acquitted himself well over his career after a quite productive career in Murfreesboro. All-time leading tackler in MTSU history, and you and I have been around this program just a little bit. We know that there have been some dudes to come through there on the defensive side of the ball. If you come out of MTSU as the all-time leading tackler, you've done something.
Well, you've stayed healthy. You've played a lot of games since your freshman year, and you've been where the ball is. And I tell you, for a guy like you mentioned, an undrafted free agent kid from Athens, Alabama, or Limestone County, Alabama, more precise. He's just a real great story. And part of his story, he's going to be getting married later this year. His fiance is a young lady named Elsa Schaefer, whose dad happens to be named Scott Schaefer, who was Reed's defensive coordinator in college. So they met while Reed was playing, and Elsa is a teacher in Smyrna, and she finished up, she got her degree here. The Schaefers still live in town, and Scott and Missy were able to go to the Super Bowl along with Reed's parents, and they had a great weekend in New Orleans. I was texting with Coach Schaefer even Sunday night, and it's a great family story. Not only their families, but part of, as we mentioned, to get it started, part of the Blue Raider family.
It's fantastic, and it's always nice to see a local kid or a kid with local ties like that to be involved with something like that. So again, congratulations to him, and also again, if you want to win a Super Bowl, might ought to think about Murfreesboro. Just saying.
Especially if you're a defensive back, right?
Yeah, it seems so. I mean, Ray Oldham got the first one with the Colts back in the day, and then, like you said, Don Griffin, and yeah, it seems to be particularly on the defensive side of the ball. So we need some offensive guys in there. Big week last week for the women. A little bit of tougher week for the guys on the hardwood. MTSU swept Kennesaw and Jack State in women's play. Men fell at Jack State on Thursday night, bounced back and defeated Kennesaw on Saturday. Standings have not really changed a whole lot, have they, Chip?
Not really on the women's side. Well, Liberty's picked up a loss on the women's side, so the middle women are alone in first place in Conference USA at 10-1. Liberty a game back, Western a game behind Liberty. So that's your top 3, and Louisiana Tech rounds out the top 4 at 6-5. Now, on the men's side, Middle has gotten a split on all 3 road trips they've had to make this year, on all 3 road swings, where you have a 2-game swing. They got one the first weekend at FIU. They got one the second road swing against Sam Houston, and then picked up the one at Kennesaw. Jack State is still undefeated at home for the entire year. They have been so far the class of the league. They've got a great scorer in Jerron Pierre, and he got hot early, hit 3. He got just an absolute wide open look on an offensive rebound and hit his first shot. And when guys like that, when they get that first one to go down, the confidence level zooms up. And I mean, he was not guarded poorly. It was really the defensive effort on him was pretty good. As Nick McDevitt said last night on his radio show, he goes, there were a couple of times when it looked like our guys were trying to give him high fives. They were right there, and the guy just made pro shots from pro distance as well as degree of difficulty. He had 25 in the first half and chilled out to only 11 in the second half. So a 36-point night, and then you turn right around and had to face a Kennesaw squad that's got the guy who is hands down the freshman of the year in the league, and also they have another second good scorer. This league has incredible guards this year, and a lot of times we talk about everybody else's guards, but you start looking at it and say, well, gosh, we've got one of our own that is as good as anybody in the league in Justin Porter. And there was a streak on Saturday where Justin Porter and Adrian Woolley, the freshman at Kennesaw, I mean, they were putting on a show. It was almost like a horse contest, back and forth, and Middle had built a lead and held on down the stretch and got a win there. And just a really satisfying victory there to gain the split on the road trip. But I tell you, it's the way it's shaping up right now. You've got Jack State in first place, Liberty in middle, tied at 7-4. Then UTEP is 6-4, and after that, you've got Louisiana Tech and Kennesaw at 6-5, New Mexico State 5-5. Western is in 8th place now at 5-6. And the way this thing has been set up, you can go from 2nd to 8th in a weekend, depending on how you do. But this week, it's just a 1-game week for both the men and women. Lady Raiders will host Western Saturday afternoon at 2, and the men will play at Bowling Green Saturday at 7. So if you want to make the double dip, you can do it.
Chip, you talk about this Jack State team, 17-7 overall, 9-2 in league play. And what's crazy is I caught a glimpse of Florida Atlantic in their game last night, and I saw a name in a graphic, Kaka Tandy, and I'm like, didn't he play at Jack State? Yes, he did.
Last year, I think.
Yeah, and think he was one of their top scorers. And it's like, so they are having the success that they're having without one of their better pieces from last year, who could have been back and is instead plying his trade at FAU. So in the American, but it's I hesitate to give Ray Harper too much credit for obvious reasons, but clearly he has got them playing some really good ball right now. And so kudos to the Gamecocks.
Well, and according to our coaches, they've also made a major change in how they defend ball screens. And I mean, that's something, fans and us a lot of times are looking at who's putting the biscuit in the basket and that kind of thing. But
Right.
but coaches, noticed those kind of things and said they made a seismic change in how they defended ball screens, and it's really made a difference in how they have the success that they have had. But their big kid right now, you mentioned the young man who went from Jack State to FAU. their big gun now was probably freshman of the year in the Sun Belt at Southern Miss 4 years ago, because I remember him having a great game against us as a freshman when he was down in Hattiesburg. So it's everybody's got a lot of stickers on their suitcase these days.
No doubt. One player who does not have a lot of stickers on her suitcase, and we certainly need to give a shout out to Conference USA Women's Basketball Player of the Week this week, Tamia Scott, the junior out of Clarksville. I made it over to the Jack State game on Thursday night because I had to come get wings for Super Bowl Sunday, and you know where I went. But
Yes.
30 points, 14 boards against Jack State on Thursday, and then turned around and had 24 points, 8 boards in that big win over Kennesaw State on Saturday. So she was on a tear last week. Her second Conference USA Women's Basketball Player of the Week honor of the season. She and Anastasia Boldareva each have a pair for the Lady Raiders.
Well, and if you watch Tamia and the work that she puts in, not only in practice but when people aren't watching, when you're coming over there at nighttime and getting shots up in the dark and on a cold winter night, and she's doing, I think the coaching staff has done a great job with her, putting her in positions to be successful, but she's also done the work herself in developing her skill set. And you've watched her so much that she is, it just comes easy to her. And the thing is, it's funny how you can be, how it takes 10 years to become an overnight sensation, but and that's what she's done. I mean, she has put in the work over time, and all of a sudden, boom, it comes to fruition, and she makes things look easy on the floor. The speed of the game doesn't bother her. And she is confident in what she can do with the basketball in her hands, and understands what they are trying to get done from a schematic standpoint. So you put all that together, and that's quite a package for her. And we've been talking all year about how Anastasia Boldareva might be the favorite for Player of the Year in the conference. I know New Mexico State has a really good score, but Anastasia's biggest competition might be on her own team.
Right. Clearly. Chip Walters, the Blue Raider voice, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, as he typically does on Tuesdays. You mentioned the women have Western Kentucky coming in at 2 Saturday afternoon. The men go up there at 6. And I can't imagine that Rick Insell would remind his kids of what happened the last time they played Western Kentucky.
Well, I will just say this, and I will quote him from his radio show last night. We hadn't even talked about that. So
have you seen that meme of Viola Davis from, How to Get Away with Murder, when she rolls her eyes and puts her purse on her shoulder and walks out? That is my reaction to that.
Yeah, I understand.
But it was just Monday, I guess. So maybe they hadn't then.
Well, and I think he probably won't have to say anything, because I promise you, every one of them on that roster they know who's on the schedule on Saturday, and they know what happened in Bowling Green. And after Middle had gotten off to a terrific start in that game, things kind of went south. But it'll be I think there will be some juice in the building on Saturday. I don't think there's any question.
Mr. Neely, hey, you're on mute.
He's on mute.
He's on.
Man, I was agreeing with you guys the whole way, and I was like, man, okay, I guess. But yeah, not much motivation needed, to say the least. And quintessential Slick Rick right there. Yeah, we hadn't really talked about that.
Yeah, I mean, he feels, he gets a little extra juice in his system too on when it comes to Western Kentucky. He has gone for a long time and tried not to, he'll make a point of he doesn't want to spend any money. They'll like drive up to Bowling Green and drive home. I don't want to spend any money in Kentucky and all this kind of stuff. I mean, he is not afraid, to well, and I think, part of it, he does not mind riling up the opposition and making himself the focus of their wrath, where it takes pressure off his own kids.
Very Steve Spurrier-ish.
Oh, absolutely.
Rick.
Yeah.
So that should be a fun one. If you have a chance to get over there, do so. If you have a chance to get over there the next 3 Saturdays, basically do so, because a week from Saturday is alumni reunion men's style, as they will have Sam Houston State coming in on February 22nd. The following weekend, it's the women as Texas El Paso comes to town, and there will certainly be a lot of luminaries in the building for both of those.
Yeah, and there's a lot of guys already. Jim Simpson's already hearing from a lot of the former players that are going to be coming back, and I heard a rumor the other day that Kermit Davis, he and his daughter are coming up I think they're going to make a couple of weekends. Kermit said he wants to come see the guys play, and Allie, his daughter, and Rockstar, she's a big fan of both the men and the women, and she wants to make sure she gets to see the women play too. So Allie will make sure Dad comes on up. So speaking of former players, Saturday in Kennesaw, you just think about over the years how many alums of Middle in general have settled in the Atlanta area, and how many former players have come from the Atlanta, Central Georgia area. There were a ton of folks wearing blue on Saturday, including several former players: Antonio Green, Eli Lawrence, Jalen Jordan, Jaquan Raymond, among several others. And, it just kind of made me think about our opening conference game in football on the final week of September this year, since the football schedule is now out. Will be at Kennesaw. So there will be an opportunity. I think they'll have a lot of blue in the stands down in Kennesaw for that. But, people are kind of latching on to both these basketball teams heading toward the conference tournament down in Huntsville, and everybody had a good time in Huntsville last year. So I think it'll only be even better the second year down in the Rocket City and in the Probst Arena. Great, perfect host arena for this tournament, and the city of Huntsville just opened up its arms and rolled out the whatever color carpet you happen to need for your own school's needs, blue in our case. But it's a perfect size city that has a lot of stuff going on, with the Space and Rocket Center and all that kind of stuff. A lot of good restaurants. It's a fun trip, and our folks can either stay or a lot of folks were driving back and forth, but we're about a month away from it. A matter of fact, a month, 4 weeks from today, the tournament will start in Huntsville, Alabama.
Just try, if you're going to the Probst Arena, to familiarize yourself as best you can with the arena relative to where you are parking, because
that's a good piece of advice.
Someone walked all the way around the arena to get in for the UT women's game last year, and then came out right at their vehicle after the game. So
I think I know where, because you were probably in that garage, and you ended up walking about 3/4 of the way around the building when you could have gone to the right and gone right in the door.
Yes, that's exactly what happened.
I was guilty.
I got some steps.
I was guilty of that myself. So I learned my lesson.
I definitely got some steps in. Real quick tip before we let you go, want to mention softball season has started. The Lady Raiders have the reigning Conference USA Freshman of the Week, Jana Want, out of Canada.
Yes. Out of the Toronto area. And Oh, she only had 9 hits and 5 ribbies, 3 runs scored, 2 walks, and a home run over the weekend.
Yeah, a
Not bad.
1.445 OPS. Her slugging was pretty impressive because she doubled in her first at bat, had a 3-run homer later in that Louisville loss, and then, like you said, 3 straight multi-hit games down at the spring games in Leesburg, Florida. So Jenna Want starting her career with a .563 batting average and earning Freshman of the Week honors in Conference USA.
That's right. They're back in Jacksonville this weekend for a tournament. They picked up a Power Four win last weekend against Rutgers, and this weekend they'll have basically they play North Florida 3 times and UConn twice in a 3-day period on this weekend. So that they're trying to hopefully get south and hopefully not have the weather that we're going to be dealing with here.
Shh.
Yeah, exactly.
Won't drove in both runs in Middle's win over Cleveland State, a 2-1 comeback victory. Geez, keep an eye on this young lady. It looks like she may be one to watch. Finally,
she's kind of like Nuke LaLue. She has announced her presence with authority.
No doubt. Blue Bloods in the round tomorrow night over at Humble Baron.
Thursday night.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thursday night, the 13th. I'm getting ahead of myself. Today is Tuesday.
Blue Bloods in the round. That is, there'll be 2 rounds of songwriters. You'll have the up and coming, then you'll have the established group. And most recently, they added, and most of these have a connection to MTSU, whether they're graduates or current. The first group will be a lot of current students who are in the songwriting program. And but most recently, Mike Reed, who was an all-pro defensive tackle with the Cincinnati Bengals and a very successful Grammy Award-winning songwriter in Nashville, will be part of the show on Thursday night. And among his many hits, one that most people will remember was Stranger in My House by Ronnie Millsaps. And so Mike Reed will be there, and the proceeds go to the MTSU Athletic Department NIL.
Raiders Rising, right?
Yeah.
Is that the collective?
Well, this is actually the in-house portion of that. So there's
my bad. Okay.
Different purse to put some funds in.
Okay. Different.
Get us
purse.
another Super Bowl winner.
Yeah,
that's right.
No doubt. There we go.
That's right.
Chip, we appreciate it as always. Congratulations again. And we will be talking to you next week.
We will talk to you next Tuesday. See you guys.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
You, Chip. Mm-hmm. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Come back, get into the grab bag before our final segment, Top 5 Tuesday, where Wade and I give you our top 5 best/most memorable Super Bowls. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Top 5 Tuesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. In our final segment, Wade and I will give you our top 5 best/most memorable Super Bowls. And again, we have concluded that Sunday's game won't be on either of our lists. Right now, though, it's time to get into the grab bag, and let's start with where in the world is Brad Willis? Well, most recently, apparently, it was in Dayton, Tennessee, to make former Tennessee quarterback Andy Kelly, former Nashville Cats quarterback Andy Kelly, aware that he would be a member of the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame's 2025 induction class. And as we talk to Brad so often, it always feels like there's somebody that it's like they're not already in, and that would kind of apply to Andy, I would think, given again what he did at UT and what he did after as an arena ball quarterback.
Yeah, Brad strikes yet again, and you're right. Feels like, perhaps maybe should have already been in, but yet another cool moment, dropping by his insurance office over there in Dayton and just pulling right up on him. So Brad has gone high and low. He's been inside the FedEx Forum. He's been at the 104.5 The Zone studios. And, sometimes you just roll up in a State Farm office in Dayton. No place and no corners unturned for this guy.
Yeah, you never know where he's going to wind up. And it's, he's always delivering great news when he does. So congrats to Andy again. Miracle at South Bend, Tennessee's comeback victory at Notre Dame back in 1991 after trailing to the point that someone at my house made me turn the game off. We were watching another game and saw on the crawl that Tennessee was mounting a comeback and flipped it back over there and caught the last little bit of that one. Yeah, that's probably one of the greatest comebacks in college football history, not just in UT history. Went on again, played a long AFL career, 800 plus career touchdown passes over 15 seasons, played with the Nashville Cats among other teams. So again, congratulations to him. He will be joined by former Belmont basketball standout Joe Bailing, who is also going into the Hall of Fame. And this is from back when, Belmont was in the old NAIA, playing in the VSAC, the Volunteer State Athletic Conference, when they and Lipscomb were both at that level before they both moved up to NCAA Division I competition. But Bailing, I'm trying to get to his announcement here. think he played his high school ball at Hillwood. Played 1 year of high school ball. 3-time NAIA All-American, NAIA Player of the Year. Scored 1,071 points in 1989. It's one season. He remains Belmont's all-time leading scorer with 2,823 points. Holds the school record for field goals made and single season scoring average. And he had the second men's basketball jersey that Belmont retired, number 54. Played professionally in Argentina, France, and in the CBA after his Belmont career. So congratulations to Joe Bailing, as well as Vanderbilt football pioneer Jack Jenkins, who played for the Commodores back in the 1940s. In fact, between his collegiate playing career and his professional career, he went to World War II. So, but at the time he left, he had set a scoring record at Vanderbilt, most points in a season with 90, most points in a career with 147. 2-time All-SEC. He was SEC Player of the Year in 1941. Was drafted 10th overall by the then Washington Redskins in the 1943 draft, but went and served in World War II before coming back and playing professionally. And then coaching at Vanderbilt. Passed away in 1982 in Florence, Alabama. So your latest inductees or your latest announced members of the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame class of 2025 are Jack Jenkins, Joe Bailing, and Andy Kelly. And I guess that leaves him 3 short. He said they were going to announce 20 in this class, and that's 17. So we'll still be looking out to see where Brad winds up.
Yeah, he's still got some probably aces up his sleeve. And, in theory, probably want to finish with a bang. So a supersized group as they celebrate, 60 years this year.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got a lot going into making these announcements, and cool to see, as always, expertly choreographed yet again.
That's a great word for it. Yeah, he does a great job of pulling those off. A little Major League Baseball news. Again, spring training right around the corner for most of the 30 teams. The Milwaukee Brewers and the Cincinnati Reds have both announced and unveiled the jersey patches that they will be wearing this year in tribute to a couple of their fallen legends. The Brewers have got a snazzy Bob Uecker patch to pay tribute to him. It's his autograph across a baseball that sits on a plaid piece of fabric in their blue and gold colors, kind of commemorating his legendary plaid jackets that he always seemed to show up in. It's really sharp, really a nice touch in recognizing their longtime radio broadcaster who passed away last month. Cincinnati Reds keeping it kind of simple with a number 14 on a black circle that they will wear on their sleeve in honor of Pete Rose, who passed away back in September. Obviously, it was a situation where you felt like both those teams were going to do something. You just didn't quite know what. But now we're here on the tip of the season getting started, and they rolled those out here in the last couple of days. Really nice touch, paying tribute to those two, the hit king and must be in the front row, Mr. Uecker. So we'll be looking for those on a baseball field near you soon. Speaking of team logos, the 5 guys that will be going into the Baseball Hall of Fame this year, it was announced what logos, on their plaques, they typically have a hat on, and typically the plaques with the hat have a team logo on it. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes a player who will have played for a number of teams and would prefer not to have a logo. But Dick Allen will go in with a Phillies logo on his cap. The late Dick Allen. Dave Parker will wear a Pirates cap despite having played for the Brewers and the A's, among others. CC Sabathia started his career with Cleveland, obviously had that great run with Milwaukee, but he will be a Yankee where he played 11 of 19 seasons. Ichiro, no question, he would be a Mariner. And Billy Wagner going in as an Astro. Much deserved. Again, those guys had a lot of success with other teams, but that's who they will be. I don't want to say memorialized because they're not dead, but that's who they will be associated with primarily as they go into the Hall of Fame. So nice little touch for them and those respective teams, I would think.
For sure.
Particularly Wagner.
Yeah, and we've talked about this is a great group, kind of a diverse group in terms of eras, achievements, and positions, obviously. So kind of always neat to see who gets designated. Some obviously were pretty simple, but some there was a little question about. So nice to know who's going to be memorialized there in that sense.
Absolutely. Hey, let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, it'll be the final segment of today's show. It's Top 5 Tuesday. Wade and I will give you our top 5 best, most memorable Super Bowls. Stick around.
Hadn't forgot that. You know what they say, let's go Strokes.
People are amazed at the variety and quality of guests we bring into Main Street Sports Today. But when you've been in this business for nearly 40 years and you never throw away a phone number, it's pretty easy. Right, Wade?
Absolutely. And Wynn agrees with me. Check out some of our guests featured on Main Street Sports Today.
Step back and catch my breath. But I expect nothing less from you, big boy. Let's get going.
We make it work pretty good. So
the fans are tremendous. It's fantastic.
It was really amazing.
They call it performance. Yeah.
From preps to pros, you never know who's going to stop by. So be sure to listen to and watch Main Street Sports Today from 2 to 4 p.m. daily on the MSM TV app. The final segment of Top 5 Tuesday here on Main Street Sports Today. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. It's time for Top 5 Tuesday. But before we get into it, I want to mention yesterday we mentioned that Tiger Woods would be playing in the Genesis Invitational out at Torrey Pines this weekend. About the time we were saying that he was going to play, he was announcing that he's not. Tiger's mom, Coltita, passed away last week, and he had thought that he would be ready, and he said yesterday in an announcement that he's not. Said, I plan to tee it up this week, but I'm just not ready. I did my best to prepare, knowing it's what my mom would have wanted, but I'm still processing her loss. Thanks to everyone who has reached out. I hope to be at Torrey later in the week and appreciate the continued kindness since my mom's passing. So he's hosting the tournament, and I would imagine the combination of hosting it and playing in it and still processing the loss of his mom was just more than he was ready for this week. And it's unfortunate, but grief is a hell of a thing.
No doubt. And it's sad, obviously, news, but it's especially tough because just 2 weeks ago she was in the crowd cheering him on. A funny clip as part of his TGL, the new golf league that him and Rory are kind of getting up and running. And he said, hey, Mom, I'm going to try not to suck today. So Tiger's still kind of being playful with his mom, watching him in the crowd. And, yeah, that made it even kind of more tragic, the fact that she was just there and then, boom, the next week gone. So, obviously, nobody really gonna fault Tiger for this. And man, that's a lot he's got to deal with.
Absolutely, and not at all. You're right. Again, everybody deals with grief in their own way, and the best thing you could do is just let them and try to be there for them as best you can. But it's just not up to anybody to kind of judge anybody for how they go through that process. And so again, Tiger won't be playing this weekend, and it's, you know, the reasons are kind of unfortunate. So hopefully he is able to get himself into a place, you know, it's just tough. That said, Top 5 Tuesday brought to you by MIDSOUTH 5 Fitness. 2 great locations, one in Franklin, one in Columbia. Whatever shape it is you're in, Dallas Steele will get you in a better one. You can find him at Steel Athletes, STEEL athletes.com. MIDSOUTH 5 Fitness bringing you Top 5 Tuesday. This one is our best or most memorable Super Bowls. Wade, the floor is yours.
Man, you know, this one is not the most memorable for me because I wasn't born, but it is the best. Super Bowl III, man, the Jets are 1-0 in Super Bowls, and they went out and did things the way they were supposed to. You got Broadway Joe, you got the guarantee, the 19-point underdog story versus the Baltimore Colts. What more could you ask for? Broadway Joe kind of getting things started. Unfortunately, haven't been back to one since, but we'll always have 1969, baby.
Yeah, what more could you ask for would be him actually scoring so that he would have been the first Alabama player to score in a Super Bowl rather than Devontae Smith this past weekend.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one, even though you weren't around to see it. I will go. It may be kind of obvious, but it's also most memorable for me because it's the only one I've been to. Super Bowl 34, Rams 23, Titans 16. Kevin Dyson 1 yard short, all that other stuff. And like I said, I was in Atlanta for that one. If it wasn't your team, it was kind of tough to watch, but it was a heck of a ball game regardless. So that's my most memorable.
I mean, there's a reason, right? We just talked yesterday that the NFL did a full package with Dyson talking about that game. I find it kind of interesting, though. They never interview Mike Jones, right? The guy who made the tackle. They always want to talk to Dyson, or, you know, it obviously was brought up with McNair before he tragically passed. But they never talk about the guy who actually made the tackle. But, man, what a Super Bowl that was.
No doubt. It absolutely was. Probably couldn't enjoy it like I really wanted to because I was working. But at the same time, yeah, it was good stuff. It's a good ball game. Number 2, Wade?
Number 2 for me, Super Bowl 42. That's also known as the David Tyree game. And, man, as a Jets fan, you would think, right? You would think that I don't want the Patriots to win this. We were on the precipice of the greatest team ever in the history of football. We had Tom Brady and Randy Moss going for about 1 million yards that season. Clobbering teams. I mean, they had everything, and then it came undone by a Giants team that didn't even really have any expectations entering the season. They really didn't have much of a shot, whether they admit it or not, going into the postseason. They find their way all the way into the Super Bowl, and then Eli to Tyree, a play that spoils the Patriots' unblemished record, and a Super Bowl moment that will live forever.
The helmet catch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. They kind of start to run together at a point, but yeah, that was like you said, a lot at stake in that one, and the Patriots kind of had a date with destiny, and the Giants said, "Hold up, not so fast, my friend," and all that other good stuff. And so with the Patriots not going undefeated thanks to the Giants, my number 2 is Super Bowl 7. Where the Miami Dolphins closed out a 17-0 season and remain the only team to go unbeaten from post to wire with a 14-7 win over the then Washington Redskins. Bob Greasy and that Dolphins team was loaded. Great ball game, as attested by the score. So that's my number 2, Super Bowl 7, Dolphins Redskins. Number 3, sir.
Up next for me, I got to break up the monotony a little bit because I got the Pats on a couple of these. It's hard not to have the Pats just in recent memory because there have been some wild games too. But Super Bowl 44, I was in Knoxville watching this, and you might not have wanted to been in Knoxville when you watched the Saints run away from the Colts in the second half. Peyton Manning doing what Peyton did a lot throughout the course of his career, let one get away. But the Saints with the onside kick, man, feels like a bygone era, right? When you could actually surprise a team and convert an onside kick.
Yeah, when you didn't have to tell them. Yeah, we're kicking onsides. Get ready. Yeah.
Didn't have to tell them. The Saints get the win. That is a moment that will live forever in that franchise, certainly. And one of the, an underrated Super Bowl in a lot of aspects is Tracy Porter seals it with the late pick 6.
And my memory of that game is Tracy Porter looking up at the big screen at the end of the end zone that he's running into to see where his pursuers are as he takes that pick 6 back and closes out New Orleans' only Super Bowl win, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my number 3 is Super Bowl 22. And I didn't intend to have so many that involved Washington, but Washington 42, Denver 10, and in the second quarter of this one is when Doug Williams just unleashed hell on the Broncos. 5 touchdown passes in the quarter, and it was just as perfect a performance by a quarterback in a quarter as you've ever seen. So yeah, that's my number 3 is Super Bowl 22, and Doug Williams just demolishing Denver.
Yeah, 35-10. I think I saw the stat. That is the largest margin at halftime. The Chiefs matched that. They tied, I forget the second Super Bowl, but they matched the second biggest lopsided margin the other night. But Washington, Denver was number 1 and ends up 42-10. Not even the 49ers Chargers, which we talked about a little bit last week. That game was still relatively competitive in the first half. It was not as lopsided as that Washington Denver, the one you're referencing there.
Yeah. Number 4.
Number 4 for me. I mentioned the Pats would be included in this one a little bit of recency bias. Yes. But when you talk about memorable Super Bowls, all I got to say is Janet Jackson. All right. And Super Bowl 38. Yeah, the Pats and the Panthers played. Yeah, the Patriots were kind of getting their dynasty underway, but nobody really remembers it for that reason. In one of the most memorable moments in Super Bowl history, Justin Timberlake, P. Diddy, Kid Rock, Janet Jackson, etc., all involved. And you can't get more memorable than that.
That's pretty memorable. I've got another one that involves the Pats at number 4. It's Super Bowl 20. Chicago 46, the Pats 10. This was before they got their dynasty going, obviously, and the Bears made sure that they didn't get it going that day. Refrigerator Perry scored a touchdown. Walter Payton did not. But, yeah, that's my number 4. Number 5.
Number 5, Super Bowl 47, Harbaugh Bowl, New Orleans. The lights go out. What more could you really kind of ask for, right? I mean, it was everything you wanted, and then it's brother John beating brother Jim 34-31. An epic game, an epic rivalry, and the lights went out.
Number 5 for me is Super Bowl 43, Pittsburgh 27, Arizona 23. James Harrison taking that pick 6 all the way back, and you wondered if he was actually going to get there or if he was going to pass out on the field. He did get there. Pittsburgh did win, and Super Bowl 43 is my number 5. That's going to do it for Top 5 Tuesday here, presented by MidSouth 5 Fitness. Again, 2 great locations, one in Franklin, one in Murfreesboro. Look them up at steelathletes.com. Join us at 2 o'clock tomorrow right here. We'll see y'all.